Welcome to the Outside the Business Boxes podcast, where we're talking about how to ignite your business with systems, mindset upgrades, pivoting for the future, and of course, marketing. I am your host, 𝗵𝗵𝗴𝗵. Let's do this. Today we're coming to Outside the Business Boxes podcast. I am 𝗵𝗵𝗴𝗵, the hostess with the mostest, and I'm here today with Drewbie Wilson. It's a guy I met on a podcasting like get together type thing. You pay like a couple bucks a month, whatever, to be on. And I scrolled through it. I've scrolled through hundreds of people, and he was number one on my list to have on this podcast. And let me tell you why. The little background with him that I found out a little bit about him is that number one is he has done the weight loss journey, and he was a pretty big dude. Like, I was a pretty big dude, and I'm still losing weight. Now I'm down to 45 pounds now, but still got another 80 to go. But that's inspiring, especially if you go on YouTube and watch this. You look at this dude, he does never look like he's ever been a fat guy at any time. So, but anyway, yeah, he's got businesses. He's done SaaS, marriage. He's had issues. He's my kind of guy, man. And so with no further ado, hey, Drewbie. And he's got Starlink, which, guys, to let you know, Starlink, there he is. So, Drewbie, there you are.
Hey, what's going on, Chad? I'm excited to be here. Truly grateful for the opportunity. And as you had mentioned, hopeful that the Starlink will hold out here. Now, just to kind of give y'all some context, my family and I sold our house in Texas last year after all sorts of big things happened in business. And we moved into a fifth wheel RV so that we could travel the country and literally live our lives with true purpose and intention. And so, sometimes the Starlink blinks out a little bit now and then, but the beautiful thing is the memories will never go away.
Right. That's an interesting. So I know someone else who did that, and they just ended their 3-year driving around the country and bought a cabin. And so they're still remote, but they're not doing that anymore. She's an awesome social media girl. But anyway, so good. Tell me, so my focus today, the weekly stuff, is on sales. My favorite topic in the world, other than my family and God. And I will tell you, sales is number 3, which comes to number 1, because that's what I work in, is sales. Tell me your sales philosophy.
You got to call the damn leads. I mean, it's a little cliche, and I wear it on my wrist and my hat, and it's all around me all the time. But you have to do the work. And that's really what call the damn leads is kind of my mantra for, except I can own call the damn leads. The U.S. government says, hey, this guy owns it. It belongs to Drewbie Wilson. And what's interesting about it is, especially in 2025, how many people that I talk to who have seen the hat or a book or something and said, man, I've been in sales a long time, but I tell you, it's getting harder and harder to pick up the phone.
Isn't that crazy? Why? What got harder? Like they think they have gatekeepers they got to get through. It's just why. And I'll tell you, and I will tell you why it's got harder. Because you got lazier. Because you started having some success with other things. So what did you do? You took what got to where you are, and you started modifying the easy way. And that's where, as a business coach, an entrepreneur, a service business owner, where people get stuck. They get the easy ride, they get on that wave, and guess what happens? That wave crashes eventually, whether it be COVID or a stock crash, or just you start managing like shit because your leads aren't coming in right. You're just not doing the wheel of how to really run a company. And I'll tell you, I'm in this other mastermind group of a bunch of coaches, and a lot of them are sales-driven type guys. And I told them, I said, I'm going to have this guy, Drewbie Wilson, on. And I said, he's got a book that he sells his book online to get leads to coach or whatever you do, right? Your process. And so I said, and they go, what's the name of his book? He goes, Call the Damn Leads. Man, you should have seen everybody just light up. Call the damn, boy, isn't that so true? So tell me about Call the Damn Leads. So obviously that came from something in your life. So what 100%. Made that happen?
So the long story short, which you can read about in the book, of course, shamelessly plugging it. I originally grew up in the streets selling anything and everything I could get my hands on. As I got older, I went through a number of different sales jobs, did some retail stuff, but ultimately I landed in insurance. That was like my main first sales job. And they sat me down and at a computer with a voice over Polycom IP35 phone. If you know, you know. And they gave me a printed out Excel list of leads to call. And I was like, why wouldn't you just give me the list on the computer? Anyways, so I got to cold calling, and that's what I did for 5 years. And I got to a point where I'm like top producer in my market, always winning all the awards, everything's going on. And I'm going to my boss saying, hey man, how come we're winning all these awards and I'm making all these sales, but I'm only making 40 grand a year? And he was like, well, man, you just got to be patient. Someday it'll be your name on the door and you'll be cruising. And I'm like, I'm not a very patient person, so I don't think you've learned anything about me in the last 5 years. Like,
Right.
okay. So I was like, well, what are the other guys doing that I see online who are successful? Like the people who are living the life that I want to live, that have what I want, what are they doing? And at the time, everyone in these Facebook groups was talking about building landing pages and woofu forms and generating their own leads for like $1 instead of $25 that we're paying. And I went, this is clearly the move. So I went online and I started learning how to do my own marketing, build landing pages, all that stuff. Generated 250 leads on a $500 ad spend, and was like doubled my production.
Selling
I
what?
thought, this is insurance.
Selling what? Insurance. Okay.
Yeah,
So for
property
that
and
same
casualty
company,
insurance.
or you went off on your own now?
Same company. So this is how Call the Damn Leads came to be, because I
Okay.
was like, well, shoot, I'm doing great, and I got a call from all these other agents, and they're like, hey, bro, what are you doing, and is it legal? I'm like, well, yeah, man, it's legal. I learned how to generate all these leads.
So good, it
I'll
feels
teach you how to do
illegal.
it. Hey, well, you know how it is, man. When you start
Yeah.
succeeding, someone's always got to question it.
Got haters.
And
Yep.
so I started this marketing company on the side, man. I was like, hey, I'm just gonna build these lead generation systems for people and just let them get the leads and make money. And I made 10 grand in a weekend. I'd never made 10 grand selling insurance in a month, working 60 hours a week. I was like, I'm in the wrong business. So I started a marketing company. And Chad, would you believe it? I can be super duper great at marketing and get you all the leads in the world, but you know what doesn't work? People who don't call them. And I was getting to where I had that churn and burn of clients that were signing up, and I was getting them leads, and then they're like, well, these leads suck, or it's not working, I need a refund. And I, at one point, picked up the phone and started calling this guy's leads. I'm not a real estate agent. I had never bought or sold a home in my life at the time, but I just started calling these leads. I set 4 appointments and got a signed contract for a property in Utah. I lived in Ohio at the time. And I was just like, bro, I don't know what's going on over there, but if you would just call your damn leads, you would not have this problem. And God spoke to me in that moment. He came in and he's like, bling, light bulb.
Yep.
And I went to my buddies and I said, hey, I'm going to put Call the Damn Leads on a t-shirt someday, and I'm just going to sell it to everybody we know in marketing. And I just kind of joked it off at the time. And that led me to some other opportunities. And you know, essentially what happened is I put it on the back burner. And you know how God does, it's always in the right timing. As things at the corporation that I had moved on to after the insurance world started kind of changing, I went and said, hey, I'm going to lean all in on Call the Damn Leads, because the number one thing that I run into in every coaching client, every consulting client, every business that I talk to, they're not following up and they're not calling the damn leads enough.
Yeah. So Starlink hit us, so we paused, so he'll be coming back. So here he came back. So you paused there for a second. So I filled in the airspace. So go hit that rewind 15-second button. I have about 7-second button. What did you say?
Yeah, so essentially what happens is the number one thing I run into in almost every business is people are afraid to pick up the phone, or they're not using a predictable process to follow up with their leads. That's why they constantly feel like they're on the hamster wheel, where 1 month they're making a ton of money, and then the next month they're chewing at their nails trying to figure out if rent's going to get paid. So Call the Damn Leads really came together as a joke, but it is the movement behind what will allow you to change your life. It's just pick up the phone and call the damn leads.
You know, it's funny. So this is before computers or actually PCs. You know, this is in the 90s. I had a buddy of mine who I went to flight school with in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I went to the mechanic side. He was on the pilot side, but we both worked at a pizza place together. Became super close friends. We're both military. So as we became friends, he went off. We both went our separate ways, you know, moved out of Tulsa, went to our hometowns, whatever. I came back to Dallas. He went to over in Virginia, and he didn't want to become. All of a sudden, he kind of lost his passion to be a pilot because all the crap you got to go through and all the hours you got to finally get. And so what did he do? He was a natural born, like me and you, natural born sales guy. Didn't have a ton of sales experience, from the military stuff, but he was that guy that he just had it. He had the rapport. Everyone liked him right away. The second you talked to him, you felt like you were being sold. You had a friend. And so he's working at this dealership, and I talked to him. I mean, we're still good buddies now. I talk to him about once a month now, but at the time I was talking to him probably every other day. And he goes, Chad, I sold 30 cars last month. The next best guy sold 10. I go, well, what happened? He goes, I started taking ads out for myself, kind of like what you did. This is what reminded me of him. This was the 90s. So this is when you had the little trade magazines and the little things at the shopping stores that a lot of people would go pick up, like Auto Trader and stuff. And he would take out, the 80s and 90s thing where you take out a little ad. He did that kind of model. And I'm pretty sure he had bought the old CDs or tapes of somebody that did that at some point in time in the 80s and never could use it. He was in the military, or he tried, it didn't work. So he did it. He took that knowledge and he remembered and started taking out we're talking like $15 ads, like in the newspaper and stuff like that. And everybody like you, like I said to you, he goes, what are you doing? Is it illegal? How are you like, you never, and by the way, he never worked the floor. Appointment only. Because they'd call up and ask for Jeff. Is Jeff Greg's there? His name's Jeff Greg's. I go, it's Jeff. So he just sat there and booked appointments and sold cars. He never got up and walked. If he got up to walk around the floor, he was just talking to people and stuff like that. So then what did the kiss of death of salespeople, what do you think they made him?
They made him sales manager.
They made him the sales manager. And then he became the sales manager. And so after 3 or 4 years of banging his head, pulling his hair out, just hating it, because he wasn't in his element, he quit and started up a sales training for car dealerships across the country. And he actually sold that business, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago, made a fortune. He still consults for them and still goes in every once in a while, travels and will be the guy at the contact. But here's the thing. Well, here's the moral of the story. He would literally take out an ad, people would call him, and he'd call his damn leads, right? He was just doing it all the time on his own. He recreated his own deal to make it work. And so on. And I'm not saying that he didn't do anything new. He took something that he learned from someone else and made it theirs. What you did, it's like everybody should call the damn leads, but do they train on it? So, I mean, that's just it. Are you training your people to do it? So that's super interesting. So so now tell me about your program now.
Yeah. So essentially,
I want to call the damn leads or read your book. What's next?
Essentially what's next is we have to build a systematic process and routine that you can follow. It's like microwave directions, man. We've all messed up a microwave meal or two over the years, but like 99% of the time, as long as you can follow the directions on the box, you end up with something predictable. And yeah, sales process. There it is. And that what's interesting to me and what I'm learning, Chad, and this is like for the people that are in the
we got a Starlink pause. He'll be coming back in a second. Starlink pause. Pause for these short messages.
Drewbie,
there you go, Drewbie. You went for a 10-second one there.
So, all right, cool. Well, this is easy, so we can bounce back. Yep. So the number one issue, uncertainty. And this is what I know. And as you mentioned earlier, people have gotten lazy. They're willing to hide behind these little screens and things. And the thing is, if you walked up to a door and you didn't know what was on the other side of it, could be $1 million check, could be an ape ready to rip your face off.
Yep.
You're going to hesitate opening that door. Even if it could be the $1 million, you're still going to hesitate because you're not 100% sure.
Yep.
And what I know is that when you get on a call and you have a predictable process, there's a lot less uncertainty. Because no matter what's on the other side of that door, you're just going to follow the directions and the process that you've put in place. And unless something goes completely haywire and crazy, which rarely ever happens, because sales is very, very boring. That's why people don't want to call the leads, because it's kind of boring.
Well,
But if you
they remember that one bad call out of 100, and that's the call that they're harping on, not the 99 other good ones. The one
none of
bad
those
one,
matter.
like, yeah, none of it matters. None of that matters. The
You
next
will
call
always
is
hear
what
the
matters.
hater in the crowd over anyone who's applauding for you.
The
Always.
client you're with now is the only one that matters, and then after that, the next one. That's it. What happened
Bingo.
yesterday doesn't even matter.
And so what we do in the program now is essentially just that. We come in and we look over and audit everything that you're doing, what's worked, what isn't working, and how do we go back to the basics so that we build a microwave style process that makes it almost impossible to fail. Notice I said almost, because we've all left the thing in the box or not poked a hole in the plastic once or twice and made a fucking mess. So like, it's not 100% perfect, but it can be way, way higher percentage than what you have now. And on top of that, it's not just what you're doing in the business, it's what you're doing on the personal side as well. Because again, we can all make money, and I've met people that have made more money than they know what to do with. They always have told me, I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have spent more time making memories and doing the things that matter. And to me, that's been a huge awareness in my life. And that's why I created the 4 sixes that we teach people. Is like, what is your time worth? Where are you spending it? And is it generating the ROI that you want? Because it's not always about money. We all know how to make money. Time, energy, and effort we can't get back, can't win in a poker tournament, and we don't get a box of on Christmas morning. So if you're being intentional with where you're investing your time, energy, and effort, personally or professionally, and you use the frameworks and processes that we teach, again, almost impossible to fail. Not impossible, but almost. And it all comes back to having the certainty and the confidence that when you wake up every day, you already kind of have a good idea of what's going to happen by the end of the day.
Yeah. So I'll tell you 2 things quickly. So number one, sales meeting this morning with my service team. So I don't work there. Everybody knows that. If you want to listen to my podcast, I don't work in operations. I don't even have an office at my $5 million company. I don't work there. But I still manage the management, and I still help hire the sales guys, and I do 2 sales meetings a week at 7:30 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Today, what we were talking about, and you were talking about the 4 sixes, I didn't have a sales training today. We just talked about our wins and what they like about the company right now. So it was just a 𝗂𝗵𝗵𝗴, coffee break, type of deal. And it turned into a funny sales meeting because we were all laughing about stuff and about, things like that. And so, I mean, sales isn't just about the numbers. It's about the process, the culture, everything else. And then just literally before I got on with you, I put a post out. I do a live every, when I first started this, I started my live. It's called Chat with Chad. It goes on. I have a large chimney group on Facebook with over 2,000 chimney companies. And then I repurpose that chat with live starting tonight again as a podcast. So everyone will hear this, and then hopefully I'll be recording the live, and then you'll hear what I do that tonight. Tonight's topic: sales isn't just numbers; it's a learned skill. The trades are terrible at this process, and let me break this down. Which category of sales of the business level are you at? No process, which is typically $1 million sales company or lower. Sales process has been created, 1 to 2 million. Sales presentation and process is working together, 2 to 5 million. And then 4 million up, are you actually managing it? And that's what I find in the revenue. So like you can look at yourself and go, yeah, I'm not $1 million yet. Well, why? Probably because you haven't created a sales process yet. You're working off of osmosis. It's like when you hire someone, follow me, do what I do. And then you let them go on a truck and you wonder why the hell they suck. And then all you say is, all you say all the time is, well, I never can find anybody as good as me. Well, yeah, because you gave them none of the tools that you had. You just had them watch you osmosis for a week, 2 weeks, maybe even 6 months. Either way, you didn't give them a process. And then I just go through and describe all 3 of them. Sales, then you finally develop a process, which is a living document. It's always being, if you're going to, this is the next thing. I should have almost said 5 million and above or 7 million above, maybe even 10 million above, sales process and everything is redo. Everything's a redo, right? You're going to have to go back to the sales process, the presentation, and the management, and up the level because it's going to get bigger and you know and stuff. And so that's what my live is about tonight. So I mean, there really is. You can look at yourself in your own mind and go, where am I at? And I guarantee you, I'm pretty close to where you're at in a business, or where you're at and what you've done on the back end to help everybody out. So what's interesting about you, you do a lot of podcast guest posting, I'm guessing. Do you have your own podcast? I didn't look to see that.
I sure do, and it's aptly named Call the Damn Leads.
So everybody,
congruent branding is really important. Like let's just touch on this for a second. Like if
Let's
you
do
want
it.
people to know your brand, it needs
Yep.
to be congruent. It needs to be the same everywhere, anywhere, online, offline, anywhere they see it. It needs to follow the same look, sound, feel, all of it. So many people mess this up in that like they got one thing over here and then like things over here look different and their emails don't sound anything like the brand. Like all of this has to be congruent and simple. Because people are simple creatures. As much as we like to overcomplicate things, we are simple. We like routine. We like consistency. We like to know exactly what we're going to get when we walk in and put $1 on the counter. And so when you're building your brand and your business, understand that congruence is so important. And I see a lot of people skip over that. So I had to touch on it while we were there because it's one of those things that's always bothered me.
I don't know marketing company too. And just yesterday I had it was what business was he? He was a landscaper. And you went to his page, you saw a pretty yard, and the H1 said something like, "We can help you." Like, what the heck? I don't even know what you are. Like, you're not even telling Google what you are. Title tag his name, right? I'm like, no wonder you have like 34 people a month that come into your website, you know, and blah blah blah. It's like you go to my website, we fix chimneys. That's huge, right across. There's no doubt, you know, we're a chimney company, right? You know, yep. And that's where it goes. I'll tell you, I've rebranded as a business coach, and I'm just now rebranding it, and I can't decide if I'm going to stick with the Outside the Business Box was my original coaching company, and then it morphed into my daughter and I's marketing company. So now that I rebranded last year as 𝗵𝗵𝗆𝗺. Terrible name, and I'm trying to think of, you know, what I'm going to be doing here, and I'm in the middle of the process here the next 2 weeks of figuring out to do exactly like Call the Damn Leads. Everything's going to be this, but I got to figure out what this exactly is. You know, what's that hook?
I'm a big believer that if you can make everything in your business exactly what someone would search when they type in a search bar. Like I have a friend of mine who was in the furniture business for a number of years, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm getting out of this." We met him at the campground actually, where we stay in the summer. And he's like, "I'm gonna get in and I'm gonna get my mobile RV technician's license." And he's like, I could really use some help on how to brand my business. And I was like, "Cool. You need to be in Northwest Ohio mobile RV repair." Like that's it. Because when people go to Google and they type in Northwest Ohio RV repair, you're going to be the #1 guy. And he's like, "Really?" I said, "Yes." Guy took action, did that. His website's already ranked #1 on Google. He's been open 2 months.
Even and doesn't Google always say that keyword stuffing and keyword doesn't work? Such bullshit.
Uh-huh. I mean, there are limits, obviously, but like, sure. Make it simple, guys. That's it. Make it simple.
It's the KISS method, you know, keep it simple, stupid. I mean, and people overcomplicate it, get analysis paralysis. They do all these things to hinder themselves. Yeah, I'll tell you something that a coach told me just yesterday, my business coach. I mean, I'm having a hard time finding leads for coaching because I'm trying to figure out what the good hook is for service businesses. And I've hired 4 people in the last year to try to help me out. And he kind of laughed as a new coach of mine yesterday. And he goes, "Well," and as we're talking, he goes, "Well," and I told my story, and he goes, "Well, there's your hook." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You almost died, you went bankrupt, and you came back and built a $5 million plus business. That's your hook." And I'm like, I spent $200,000 on these other people, and this guy in 15 minutes goes, "There's your hook," you know, which is funny. And we laughed, and he goes, "You own a marketing company?" I go, "Yeah, I can market everybody else but my coaching." And he goes, So how did you attract people when you first got in business? Because I was quite a big business my first couple of years before COVID. And he goes, I go, well, my ad talked about my story. And he goes, why aren't you doing that now? I go, I don't know.
Your struggle is your story, and your story is what people want to hear.
Exactly.
And the story is, it's so interesting. If you back and you read, .com secrets, like Russell Brunson's books, any of the big marketers, Dan Kennedy, Frank Kern, you got one back there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
See,
yeah.
like there's nothing new in the world. What happens is we're trying to take the stuff that we know works and make it like cool. And it's there's no reason to. It works. Now, the problem is we all get too in our own head. And this is something I can speak to personally, right? Like when I left the corporation, I was the number one guy, did $15 million in sales, like all day long I was closing deals. When I launched my own business and started selling my own product, as you just said, marketing yourself is difficult because A, you're a humble guy and you don't want to like brag and be, that dude because no one wants to be that person.
Right.
At the same time, it is exactly those things that you've done and accomplished and overcome that are what people want to know about you. And so it's weird when you're trying to tell your story that's not like braggadocious and being very humble, when those are the real stories that people buy into and they go, hey, this guy and I, like, if I don't change my life, I'm going to have a heart attack and I'm going to go bankrupt. Like, I need to figure out what he did because I don't want to go down that path, right? You're the big warning sign. And it is very easy to forget that we can't put our own bias on the marketing we put in our business because we have to be in the buyer's shoes. Anytime we buy from someone else, like we're sold like, oh, this is great, I love this. But to turn around and do that same thing in our own business kind of feels icky sometimes. And it's just a weird like mindset that you have to overcome.
See, I never felt icky. I think I got an analysis paralysis by going into too much Russell Brunson, too much other stuff, and trying to figure out my hooks and just, as I started getting away from my original thought. I had a break though. So my break was I built my business up to 30, 40K in business coaching a week or a month. And what happened was I almost died from COVID. So I was in 21, I got put in the hospital, almost died. I was out of work for about 4 months, came back, lost a few clients, came back coaching, really was just happy to live life. So I wasn't building my business anymore like I was up till COVID. And I just kind of got into, it wasn't a rut. It was great for me. I was building it, but I started having some mental issues, which is not a crazy idea. People know this. I started having anxiety. So there's a big correlation to people who start having anxiety after COVID. Well, shit, I almost died. It's PTSD, essentially is what it was. And then I started stopped, couldn't sleep. I just fixed the sleep just 2.5, 3 months ago. I was over the function, but all this stuff, right? Blah, blah, blah. And so I wasn't really building the business. Well, last year I decided, okay, I'm going to start building my coaching business. So what am I doing? I'm going to go hire a coach to figure this out. Well, that coach was okay. I got a snippet. Nothing really happened. Went to hire another guy. Another snippet. Nothing really happened. Another guy, snippet, didn't happen. And then finally I found people I have now who are blowing my mind. I mean, there's just like, and they don't dog anyone else. They're cool Christian organization. They're like, yeah, what about this? Oh, yeah, that works. Okay. And so we just started with them, but I already know. Funny thing is, 2 of the coaches that I hired in the last 5 years have gone through this program, which I didn't know until I got into the program. I'm like,
isn't that funny how that goes?
Yeah, isn't that funny how that goes? And so, yeah. And by the way, it was dumb, stupid, expensive, which I've never paid twice for this program than I've ever paid for any other program before. So I'm like, okay, well, let's.
How'd that feel?
Scary. Very scary, but elevating. Right?
I think this is important for the listener, though, because any time when you're going to take a step into the next level of your life, you're going to do something scary. You're going to make a scary investment. You're going to do something that you thought you would absolutely never do in your life. And that's how you know it's the next step. And I'm not saying that go be reckless, guys. Like, please don't just go blow all your money and do something stupid. Right. But like, understand when you're at the precipice and you're looking over the edge and you can't see past the fog that's like 2 inches from your face, you don't know if you're about to jump into the step that takes you to the next level or you're going to fall on your face completely. But It's always that same scary feeling.
It is. And that's how I knew it was good. And then when I went and talked to my wife, she goes, "Don't tell me the number." She's like, right away, "Don't tell me the number." I said, but I started talking. She said, "Yeah, this does sound like the right thing." And I said, "Yeah, it does." And I've done it with my chimney business. A lot, you know. And so, we've literally done, like, my CFO. I'm surprised he's alive. He freaks out, he just goes crazy. And so we made a big move just this year. We let go of our number one sales guy. Not that he was terrible culture wise, but he certainly wasn't elevating. His numbers were starting to slip. So we had a party in the ways together. Everybody was freaking out. And I was like, "Don't worry, I got this." I already had the plan. We stuffed another guy in the plan, and we are 3Xing our business. We 3X last week. We never made money in April in 28 years of being business. We made money in April. And where are we at in May already? We're already slated to make money this week and starting one hell of a week next week. Because I changed one guy, I changed how I train, changed up everything. I elevated the process, I elevated the presentation, where I've elevated the management. I brought in a guy see, my idea was this. I don't want to train someone to sell. I will still train them to sell. We'll still focus and sharpen. But I want to find someone that already knows how to sell. They just have to learn what to sell. So the guy that we hired 2 months ago is already, like, we've given him 2 meetings of our sales meetings to train on sales, to train my guy, other guys, because he already has a 10-year background on sales in home services. And so if you're a home services company, which if you're listening to this podcast, you are, and you heard, I think I've said this in a couple other podcasts, and I know you've heard this, but go find someone that already sells in the home service businesses that you don't have to train to sell. You have to train just to what your product is, and then put them on 100% guarantee, 100% commission. Don't give them any guarantees, and watch their ass go out there and double your business. It's that good. It's worked for me.
It's something that I'm learning as again, I came from a corporation where I was a number 3 employee when they had completely cleaned house and started over. We did $3 million our first year. I think we did 8 the second, 15, 12, something, because COVID was a wild time. There was a lot of money flying around at that point. But
Yeah.
I think everybody's kind of seen that progression. But we learned something. And one of the guys that would speak on our stages occasionally, he would always say, hire for where you're going, not where you are. And that is I think something a lot of people kind of have to push through as they're building their business is like, hey, who will work for me when I don't have the systems and processes? Like, well, whoever is willing to just try. Well, and that's cool because that gets you to a certain point. But at that certain point, you've exhausted their skill set and you now have to hire someone who knows the stuff that you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do, is kind of let go of that control and understand that A, you don't know everything. First and foremost, you should figure that out pretty early. But B, when you relinquish control and you let someone else who does know take it on, that is also a scary thing to do because you've worked your butt off to build to where you are, and to think that someone else is now going to have some sort of, say of how things are going, it makes it difficult. But it always leads you down the path that you weren't prepared for because they have the skill sets that you don't have.
Man, I wish you could repeat all of that and just say it a different way. And don't, because that was awesome. Rewind this and listen to what Drewbie just said, because it's so true. Another thing that home service trades do is they're always just settling for what they're hiring. They like whatever body shows up. As long as they seem like you can get along with them, they'll do it. And I don't do that anymore. I literally am trying to find someone that literally has done more success out there than I have. I know that I'd probably, if I were out there, I'd probably be the number one sales guy. I'm pretty sure I would be. But that's because that's who I am, not because I'm the owner, because that's where I would be. I'm a guy that never stops learning. And I've learned by doing that is how I keep elevating. Which that's where it's hard with these the trades kind of seem like it's like, because you're not in a college degree typically, and you're not in a career that seems to need more education, which is where it's like they feel like it's a dead end career. When the fact of the matter is, I'll give you a perfect example. I coach a guy in Lubbock. small Lubbock, Texas, small market. Never thought he could be a $2 million company in the world. He thought that's my max. He's working with me 2 years, and now he's looking to do 3 to 4. But when he first started with me, he's like, I've already taught my market. I want you to just help me with it. He hired another industry guy who's awesome. Worked with him, started working with me the same month. He still works with me. He let go of the other guy just because the process was there and driven in. And now he sees, like, I really probably could be a $5 million company. I'm like, I know you can. I know you can. And so I've told him that since day one. Never, and he's one of my testimonies. If you go on my YouTube, 𝗵𝗵𝗴𝗵 coach, you'll see him, and you can watch all of them. But you'll watch this, and he flat out, he starts out like, I thought Chad was crazy when I met him. And I only bought into it because I was referred to him, and the other guy was doing well with him. So I stuck around I told him I'd give him 2 months. He's now been with me. We're in our 3rd year.
Come on.
Yeah. I mean, and his sales, and by the way, he just lost his whole sales team and nothing dipped. I mean, he lost half of his sales team. And guess what? Process, the better hiring, didn't even skip a beat. Like a couple weeks.
Incredible, man.
I mean, that's just what it is. That's what all this will do. This is what people don't get. If you have it in place and you work on that, and unfortunately, if you're still on the tools and on the truck, you have to work at night and the weekends. You just got to get there to get yourself off. And once you're off the tools and trucks, now you have the time during the day you can work on all this stuff, because that's what's so important. Where people, well, what am I going to do if I'm not working? Oh, you got plenty of to do. I've had that said to me so many times, like, what am I going to do? I'm like, oh my God, you really don't know what you don't know yet. And I will show you what you'll be doing, right? And so that's like one of the funniest things they always say to me. Well, I'm going to get bored in the office. No, you're not. You'll be booked out in your own mind for weeks, because you'll be behind on stuff you want to implement, create, and all this other stuff. And so, yeah, it's just, it always comes down to everything that we've just been talking about. Process, call the damn leads is awesome branding. I mean, because it is so true. I mean, so what we did with our Facebook marketing, we finally last year, right at a year ago, broke into getting a good ad that worked. I always had good ads, but something with our settings or something I always do in the back end of Facebook, we never would really convert leads. So I spent all of late last year, 2024, the last week of April and a couple weeks into May, I'm going to fix this. So I was obsessed. I got obsessed. Grant Cardone told me, be obsessed. And I got obsessed with this. And I hired a friend of mine to help me, who's one of the guys that thought he was the first guy in the group to go, call the damn leads is awesome, And so 𝗵𝗵𝗴𝗵, and he helped me with the ad. And then we tried to figure out. And at first, the first 2 weeks in, he goes, man, he goes, my shit's right, man, on the back end. The ad's just, you need to change the ad. I said, no, I know the ad's good. I know my market. I know what people are looking for. I know the ad's good. And I'm not saying it's you. We just have to tweak this. We keep tweaking this to get the audience right. Tweak, So after 3 weeks, we tweaked it. And like it was May 16th of last year. I know, because I just showed another client yesterday. And May 16th, 7 leads. Booked like 4 of them. The next day, 5 leads. Booked like 2 of them. And it kept going. Now we're at almost 1,000 leads in a year. Ad spend around $25K, which is pretty cool. We schedule about half of them, because there's a bunch of spam in there too. And we close about 25 or 50% of those. So we're closing 25% with an average ticket of around $5K. You can do the math. It's made my business one of the things that's worked. So then you got to work on, okay, so I got the leads. Now you got to call the damn leads. So part of our call it leads. So let me tell you what I was going into. So the Facebook ad clicks into a Google form, the Google spreadsheet. So that's where the lead goes. So you have a Facebook form that goes into a Google lead form, a spreadsheet on Google. And so my call center sees that. So then what they do is they call them, and they got to date it. Call them, left message, email, and text if they don't answer. And they got to do it 10 times before they go off the list to stop calling. And because generally we don't typically get to 10. At some point in time, they answer the phone and say, stop calling, or they'll book. So 10 times is enough, because you start getting 1,000 leads. It's hard to call 1,000 leads every day, right? Or 300 or 400. So we give them 10, and after 10, but they do go on our monthly list that we send out an email to. So they're still being hounded and talked to, but call the damn lead. So Drewbie, let me ask you a question. So we're gonna wrap it up here in a second. So we know the phrase, call the damn leads. What is the next best thing that you could help somebody with after you've called the lead?
I would say from there, it's creating a good follow-up sequence and process, because, you can't just call once. And I'm not the originator of this idea, but I will definitely take a lot of credit for changing a lot of lives with it. But I have Meme Lord tattooed across my knuckles. If you guys go on YouTube, you can check it out.
He's got it tattooed.
I have used memes in my sales and follow-up process, and marketing too, but mostly sales and follow-up. And it is the #1 thing that I've used that has re-engaged old clients and gotten them to sign the contract. And I have a program called Closer Memes that I put out back in like 2020. I may even have been ahead of my time, in the sense of like, I don't know if people were quite ready for it yet, because they all told me, you can't use memes. That's not professional. But these days, everyone uses memes. Even the president of the United States is using memes to track and like get attention. So if you're not using this, you're missing out. But that is the #1 thing, because with people filling out forms online, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, Google, they're getting calls from probably a dozen different people. I don't care what your vendor says. It is not an exclusive lead unless you generated it yourself. And so at that point, it's really about consistent follow-up and doing something that gets you outside the box of every other goofball who's trying to sell them their products and services, and separating yourself in a way that makes you authentic and real. And that's where I think memes can really step into it.
I love the meme. So if you're in Chad world, and this is my family world, I for years thought it was called memes. So I say memes. They're not memes, they're memes. And everyone in my family still goes, Dad, kid, come on. No, they're called memes.
Come on, man.
Come on, they're memes. So anyway, so with what you said there with the separation, keeping yourself, how do you separate yourself from the pack on a call a damn lead? Tell me one little tip on that. So it's a warm lead. Obviously I have the lead, whether it's originated by me, it's really hot, or if it's a lukewarm lead that I bought, whatever. What is one thing that every company can do to separate themselves on that initial call?
Genuinely care about people and not making the sale. It seems super simple, but the truth is, if you care about people enough to want them to win first, you will win way more than you realize.
My entire sales meeting was that this morning. Like we already said, I don't care about the numbers. Let's talk about how we all love each other. And we did. And then I brought, so where that meeting went, like I said, we did some sales training, went to that exact point you just made. Get in there and care about the customer. Listen and ask the right questions and see where these questions lead. I said, listen, you guys all have the questions. You've mastered the questions of the verbalization of a question. Now let's master the listening of the answer to really to really care about where they want to go with their fireplace and chimney. We know it's an easy thing to go with, well, we just want it to work. Okay. What else? Do you want more heat? Do you want a better look? Do you want it for ambience? Do you want to use it when it's 100 degrees out? I mean, do you like your fireplace that much? I mean, listen to what they're saying. And that's when you stop caring about the numbers, because the numbers are there. Don't you want to get to a company where you don't care about what the number is this month or this week? Because it's always going to be big. And when you get to that level, that's when you start getting into the $5, $10, $20 million companies and $100 million companies. It's because the numbers are there and they're managed, but they're not the focus. The focus is on the customer experience and training the guys to understand in their niche, where does that journey go? and it's not showing up with your ass hanging out as a plumber, and then you go in there and you just, oh, it's going to be this much, right? I had a plumber here today. Great guy. They used Service Titan. They did the whole thing. It was really nice. He came in. He was talking about our kids when we were done. At first, he wasn't real personal. He was all business, which turned me off a little bit. But I needed my toilet fixed. It was screaming. So he fixed the screaming toilet. We took him over to another toilet. He fixed that toilet. And $700 later, holy shit, for an hour and a half worth of work, I need to be a plumber. We're sitting there on my thing, and he's doing his paperwork, but he starts talking to us. And he does ask, is there anything else? So he didn't just leave it at, I'm done here. He's like, he did a pretty good, I mean, there should have been a better process for them, but he did hit the main goal. So it was an experience I just had today. So anyway, Drewbie, how do we get a hold of you? I'm pretty sure I know.
Number one thing to do would be share this podcast episode on the social media planet of your choice. Whether it's Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, I don't care. Share this episode, because if you spent a little bit of time here with us today, you listened to me ramble my mouth on, and you got some value out of it, it means that there was something to it. So share this with someone, put it on social media, maybe send it to someone that sucks at sales, and you're like, hey, I think this will help you. Do it in a loving way, but like send it to someone and then tag us on social media, because that's going to do two things. A, it's going to let me and Chad know that you got value out of this and it was worth our time to keep showing up and doing these kinds of shows. And B, we're a sales company. So if you tag us, we're going to want to follow up with you. We're going to want to know what you liked about it. And we're going to go through the same process that we would use and teach every single one of our clients. From there, if you want to buy swag, you want to order stuff, go to callthedamnleads.com. We've got books, we've got keychains, wristbands, all the fun little stuff you can give to your team. But the biggest thing is share this episode on social media and tag us, because that's going to make everyone realize there is some value to this time that they're going to spend here with us. And that's the most valuable thing that you have. So if you've invested a little bit with us, I really am truly grateful for that.
And boy, is that a salesman. And I did not feel like I was being sold. So Drewbie, it was great to get to know you today. And everybody, go to Call the Damn Leads, man. Go look at that. Go share this podcast. And Drewbie, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it, man. All
right, guys. And I will see you, if you're in Chimney World, I'll see you on Tuesdays and Thursday nights on the live. Then I'm restarted up Chat with Chad. Other than that, look at and read all the other stuff. And if you ever want to talk to me about how you can get your business to start being the business that you always dreamed of, go to 𝗵𝗵𝗴𝗵.biz and go ahead and sign up with me. Do a free call. We'll just chit chat. Listen, I don't need your money. I just want to help you. So take care, guys.